Have you ever brought home a brand new toy, convinced your dog was going to love it, only to watch them glance at it for a moment before quietly walking over to lie beside your feet instead? It's a strange little moment. Most of us smile, laugh, and assume they're just not in the mood. Maybe we'll try another toy next week, or a better bed, or healthier treats. We keep searching for the next thing that might make them happier. Because loving someone often feels like doing more. But what if your dog has been trying to tell you something completely different? What if the greatest gift they hope to receive from you cannot be wrapped, bought, or replaced? For years, many of us have measured love the way people naturally do. We look at what we provide. We count the walks, the meals, the vet visits, the comfortable blankets, the toys scattered across the living room floor. Those things matter. They truly do. They create a life of safety and care. Yet dogs don't experience love by adding up everything we give them. They experience it by remembering how they feel when they're with us. That difference is easy to miss. A dog can forget a new toy after a few weeks. The scent fades. The excitement disappears. It becomes just another object lying quietly in the corner of the room. But the feeling of resting peacefully beside someone who makes the world feel safe, that settles much deeper. Modern research into the bond between dogs and humans has shown something remarkable. Dogs don't simply depend on us for food or shelter. They build emotional attachments that shape how secure, confident, and calm they feel as they move through life. In many ways, they experience our presence as part of their emotional home. Perhaps that's why some of the smallest moments become the biggest memories in a dog's heart. The few extra seconds before you leave for work, the quiet hand resting on their shoulder without distraction, the way your voice softens after a difficult day, even when you don't realize it. None of these moments seem extraordinary to us. To your dog, they may be everything. And maybe that's one of God's gentlest lessons hidden inside the relationship we share with these remarkable animals. Love was never meant to be measured by perfection. It was meant to be recognized through faithful presence. Many loving owners carry a quiet fear they rarely say out loud. They wonder if they've done enough. They replay busy seasons of life, long workdays, missed walks, hurried mornings, and evenings when exhaustion left little energy for anything more than filling a food bowl before collapsing onto the couch. If you've ever felt that weight, you're not alone. The beautiful truth is that your dog has probably never been counting your perfect days. They've been collecting your real ones, the moments when you chose them, the moments when your heart slowed down long enough to meet theirs. In this video, we're going to explore 6 simple acts of love that dogs understand far better than expensive gifts or flawless routines. They aren't dramatic. Most take only a few minutes, and some happen in complete silence. Yet these are often the moments dogs carry with them for an entire lifetime. And by the end, you may discover that the love your dog has been hoping for has been closer and simpler than you ever imagined. If there is one sentence I've heard from loving dog owners more than almost any other, it's this: I wish I had spent more time with them. Sometimes those words are whispered after a dog has grown old. Sometimes they're spoken while looking through photographs that suddenly seem far too precious. And sometimes they're carried quietly inside the heart, long before goodbye is anywhere in sight. It's a guilt that often arrives without permission. Maybe you worked long hours because your family depended on you. Maybe your phone stole more evenings than you ever intended. Maybe life became so full of responsibilities that the days blurred together, and one morning you realized the muzzle that used to be black had quietly turned silver. No one remembers the exact day it happened. One day they were racing toward the front door. Then, somehow, they began standing up a little more slowly. It's easy to believe that love is measured by the amount of time we spend together. We count the hours we missed, the walks we shortened, the vacations we postponed, the afternoons when we said, later, because something else seemed urgent. But dogs don't experience time the way we do. They aren't replaying last Tuesday or wondering why you were busy 3 weeks ago. Their world is built from something much simpler and perhaps much more beautiful. They remember how your presence made them feel. Attachment psychology helps explain why. Strong emotional bonds are not created by constant perfection. They are created through repeated moments of safety, comfort, and connection. Every time your dog experiences you as calm, dependable, and emotionally available, that feeling becomes another thread woven into the relationship. Over time, those threads become trust, and trust becomes home. That's why a dog who has waited patiently all afternoon can greet you with complete joy instead of resentment. They aren't pretending nothing happened. They're responding to the emotional meaning of your return. You came back. To them, those 3 silent words carry extraordinary weight. Their emotional memory doesn't archive every ordinary day like pages in a calendar. It stores something deeper. It remembers the warmth of your voice after a frightening storm, the relief of your hand resting gently on their back, the peaceful feeling of falling asleep while hearing your footsteps nearby. Those memories become the language of love. Perhaps this is one of the quiet miracles hidden inside the relationship God allows us to share with dogs. Maybe He never intended this bond to teach us how to own an animal. Maybe He intended it to teach us how to truly be present with another living soul. Because presence asks for something perfection never can. It asks for attention. It asks for patience. It asks us to slow down long enough to notice what has always been waiting beside us. If you've ever felt guilty for not being the perfect owner, hear this gently. Your dog has almost certainly forgiven you for days you've never forgiven yourself. What they continue hoping for is not that you'll rewrite yesterday. It's that you'll fully step into today. And one of the simplest ways to do that begins with something so ordinary that most of us hardly notice it anymore. A touch. Not the distracted pat we give while reaching for our keys. Not the absent-minded scratch while scrolling through a screen. A different kind of touch. The kind that quietly says, I'm here. Most dogs are touched many times throughout the day. Yet, surprisingly, few of those moments involve complete attention. Our hands move automatically, while our minds remain somewhere else. We pet them while answering a message, watching television, or thinking about tomorrow's schedule. The contact is real, but the presence is divided. Dogs seem remarkably sensitive to that difference. Studies exploring the bond between people and dogs have found that calm, affectionate physical contact encourages the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, in both species. It doesn't simply create affection. It helps regulate stress, lowers emotional tension, and reinforces the sense that both individuals are safe together. In other words, your touch becomes more than affection. It becomes reassurance. Imagine coming home after one of the hardest days you've had in weeks. Nothing dramatic happens. You simply sit down on the floor beside your dog. You don't reach for your phone. You don't rush to the next chore. You let your breathing slow. Your hand rests gently against their shoulder. And after a few quiet moments, they lean into you without being asked. Nothing extraordinary has happened. No commands. No training. No expensive purchase. Yet something invisible has been strengthened. Your dog isn't just feeling your hand. They're feeling your attention. Sometimes we underestimate silence because it looks like nothing is happening. But relationships often grow strongest inside moments that cannot be measured. Sometimes the safest place in a dog's entire world is not their favorite bed or the house they live in. Sometimes it's the calmness they discover beneath your hand. And perhaps that's true for people too. Some wounds are never healed by finding the perfect words. They're healed by discovering someone willing to stay. A peaceful hand can often say what language never could. Once a dog learns that your presence brings peace, another quiet lesson begins shaping their world every single day. It isn't found in what you touch. It's found in what they can predict. Every dog carries instincts that existed long before they ever entered our homes. The urge to pause at an interesting scent. The quiet curiosity to watch a bird disappear into a tree. The decision to stop for a few extra seconds beneath a familiar bush that, to us, looks exactly like every other bush. From a human perspective, these moments can feel insignificant. Sometimes they even feel inconvenient. We glance at the clock, we tug gently on the leash, we tell ourselves we need to keep moving because the walk is supposed to be exercise. But your dog may believe something entirely different is happening. To them, a walk isn't simply about moving their body. It's about meeting the world. Dogs experience life through their noses in ways we can barely imagine. Every scent carries layers of information. A story about another animal that passed by before sunrise. A change in the weather. The emotions left behind by another dog. Or a familiar neighbor who took the same path yesterday afternoon. While we see a sidewalk, they experience a conversation. Researchers studying canine behavior have long recognized that opportunities to sniff, explore, and solve simple environmental puzzles provide important mental enrichment. These natural behaviors help regulate stress, reduce frustration, and satisfy needs that physical exercise alone cannot fulfill. In other words, a tired body is not always the same as a fulfilled mind. Think about how often we measure a successful walk by distance. A mile, 2 miles, 30 minutes. Yet your dog might remember an entirely different detail. The 5 peaceful minutes when no one hurried them. The moment they were allowed to investigate something that genuinely fascinated them. The quiet freedom to simply be a dog. Perhaps this is another gentle truth woven into creation itself. God did not design dogs merely to accompany our lives. He designed them with instincts that allowed them to experience his world in their own extraordinary way. Every scent, every breeze, every hidden trail, every tiny discovery. These aren't meaningless distractions. They're part of who they were created to be. Sometimes love means protecting. Sometimes it means guiding. But sometimes love means stepping back just enough to let someone become exactly who they were meant to be. That lesson reaches far beyond our dogs. The people we love don't always need us to control every step they take. Sometimes they simply need enough safety to become themselves. Perhaps our dogs have been teaching us that all along. And while giving them that freedom enriches their lives, there is another kind of love that asks us to notice something far more difficult. Not what they're discovering, but what they're quietly hiding. Dogs have an extraordinary ability that can be both beautiful and heartbreaking. They often continue trying to make us happy, long after something inside them has begun to hurt. It's part of their nature. In the wild, showing weakness could carry serious consequences. Although our dogs now sleep on soft beds and live surrounded by people who adore them, that instinct hasn't disappeared. Many continue masking discomfort with remarkable determination. That's why some of the deepest expressions of love require more than affection. They require attention. Not dramatic attention, gentle attention. Maybe your dog pauses for a moment before climbing the stairs when they never used to. Maybe they no longer race to greet you quite as quickly. Maybe they sleep in a different place. Maybe they hesitate before jumping into the car. Maybe they simply seem quieter. Each change, by itself, may appear too small to matter, but dogs rarely announce discomfort with loud words or obvious complaints. More often, they whisper. And those whispers are easy to miss when life is busy. One of the saddest sentences many owners carry after saying goodbye is painfully simple. I wish I had noticed sooner. It isn't usually spoken because they didn't love their dog enough. It's spoken because love sometimes looks backward with clearer eyes than it had in the moment. Looking back, they remember the slower walks, the smaller appetite, the evenings their dog chose to lie alone instead of beside them. Suddenly, the little changes connect into a story they couldn't fully see before. If hearing that brings a quiet ache to your heart, let it become an invitation rather than a burden. You don't have to become perfect. You only have to become a little more present. Loving a dog is not about searching for problems that may not exist. It's about becoming curious when something feels different. Your dog cannot explain what they're experiencing, so they trust you to notice. Sometimes the greatest kindness we can offer is simply paying closer attention to the life unfolding beside us. Because real love listens, even when no words are spoken. And even when time gently changes your dog's body, there remains one gift that never grows old. One gift you can still offer on energetic puppy days, on slow senior mornings, and on every ordinary afternoon in between. Your presence. More than almost anything else, your dog has spent their entire life orienting themselves around you. Psychologists describe something called a secure base. It's the idea that a trusted relationship gives someone the confidence to explore the world because they know safety is always within reach. Dogs appear to experience something remarkably similar. Have you ever noticed your dog wandering into another room, only to return a few moments later just to check where you are? or glancing back during a walk before continuing ahead, or choosing the floor beside your chair instead of the expensive bed you carefully bought for them. These aren't always signs of dependency. Very often, they're signs of security. Your presence quietly tells their nervous system that the world is still understandable, that they're not facing it alone. Perhaps that's why simply sitting together can sometimes accomplish more than another toy ever could. You don't always have to entertain your dog. You don't always have to train them. Sometimes they only want to share the same quiet space with the person who has become their emotional home. Maybe that's another lesson God gently placed inside this relationship. Perhaps He didn't bring dogs into our lives simply to teach us responsibility. Perhaps He brought them to remind us that genuine love begins long before words. It begins with choosing to remain fully present. Again and again, day after ordinary day, your dog has never needed a perfect life, only a heart that keeps choosing them. If you remember nothing else from today, remember these simple truths. Offer a peaceful touch that calms instead of rushing. Create rhythms your dog can trust. Allow them the freedom to experience the world the way they were created to. Notice the quiet changes they cannot explain. Protect their joy by paying attention before they have to suffer in silence. And above all, give them the one gift that costs nothing, but means everything. Your wholehearted presence. You don't have to transform your entire life tomorrow morning. You don't have to become the perfect owner by next week. Choose one small act, one quiet moment, one slower walk, one undistracted embrace, one extra minute sitting beside them before the day begins. Small moments have a way of becoming lifelong memories. One day, the toys will no longer be scattered across the floor. The leash may hang quietly on its hook. Their favorite place by the window may sit empty. Those thoughts are never easy, but perhaps they also remind us what truly lasts. Your dog will never measure your love by how much you spent or how many perfect days you created. They will carry something far more beautiful: the feeling of being safe, the memory of being understood, the quiet certainty that, again and again, you chose them. If love is one of the gifts God places between two hearts, then perhaps dogs are among His gentlest teachers. They ask so little, yet they show us so much. As long as your dog is still walking beside you, there is still time to love them in ways they'll remember for the rest of their life. I'd love to hear about one quiet moment when your dog made you feel truly seen, understood, or loved without saying a single word. Share your story in the comments. Someone else may find comfort in it, just as you once found comfort in your dog. And if you've ever wondered why your dog watches you so closely, even when nothing seems to be happening, there's another hidden message waiting to be discovered. Sometimes, the smallest everyday behaviors reveal the deepest conversations our dogs have been trying to have with us all along.